I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Hi, this is Michael Uslan. You're listening to Batman on Film.
I'm vengeance.
I have given a name to my pain.
The Batman.
Always waiting for some Batman to save you.
It's simple. We kill the Bat of Gotham. I'm Batman.
Welcome to the social hour of Batman on Film podcast, batman-on-film.com. I am the founder of Batman on Film, Bill Ramey, and I got two longtime BOFers, BOF contributors, everything BOF. Justin Kowalski and old Buddha in pockets himself, Peter Verra.
Oh, let's ride.
Lauer. He came up with that Buddha in pockets, and it's just stuck, hasn't it, Pete?
You know, Lauer, he has the knack for the timely nickname. He came out with Dick Shoes, and he came out with Boudin Pockets.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That was from the Batman watch party, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, around there.
Yes.
That's
Yes. Yeah, it is. Took it home, put it right out of his pocket, shoved them in his pocket, and
Well, I
none went
wrapped
to
it up in a
waste.
paper towel.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Well,
were they
yeah.
wrapped? I was like, were they wrapped?
I don't use Ziploc bags. I wrap things in paper
I was
towels.
like,
carry them around.
My vision is always, ever since then, is that Pete's going through security at DFW Airport, go back to Jersey, and he, anything in your pockets, and
Just sausage.
throw some boudin in those little trays, and goes through security. Okay.
To be honest,
Well-
it's probably the most normal thing those people have ever seen. Somebody pull out of their pocket.
So y'all ready to talk about local dining?
Yeah.
Yeah. I recently just tried a new pizzeria near me, Francesco's, and just fabulous pepperoni slice.
Francesco's. Have you been to
Pizza-
that pizza place? That's they have like you've sent me some videos from them. It's like the guy's like, don't over cheese your pizza, and he's all, it's about the sauce. Have you been to that place? It's in New York. You've sent them to me before, Pete.
I send you a lot of things. I'm gonna need like a resend of the link.
All right, I'm like, if I ever go, I got to go to this place. 'Cause it
There's a
seems
lot of
like-
places that when you guys come in the city, if we want to go to a pizza tour, we could do that. Like we could. John's on Bleecker is apparently the greatest pizza place in the history of the world. So that's not only the best place in the city, but it's very ranked nationally as well. But yeah, there's nothing short of good pizza around this area.
I'm telling you, when I was in New York and last month, went up there for Pete's party. Was that last month? Hell, it's already
No,
it's
it was
2
like
months ago
2
now. It
months
was in
ago.
June. Jeez.
2 months ago, since Bill took over New Jersey.
Yeah. I mean,
There's
literally
a new
walking,
dawn.
Yeah, walking through Manhattan. I mean, there's a pizza spot like every other building, it seems like. I know I'm exaggerating, but
Bill had to
Kinda-
drive past at least 3 to get to my house from his hotel.
I'm sure. Yeah. All right. So Social Hour 172. Let's I'm gonna throw some bullet points out to y'all, and then we'll get to the main topic here shortly. The Batman is returning to theaters on August 29th, Thursday. In conjunction with the Penguin being released. That's because you get a sneak peek of the Penguin if you go see the Batman on August 29th. So I got my tickets, y'all. What, Pete, you going? Justin, what you got a plan? Would you have plan on going to that, or any interest, or what's going on here?
I didn't know that was a thing. I must have missed.
Someone
I've
didn't
been
read
real
BOF.
busy. I've been so busy the last 3 days. I've been slammed. So I'm not.
They
Even,
dropped-
I don't know.
Yesterday? Was it yesterday? Or day before?
Yesterday, what's today? Today's Friday, so Wednesday, Thursday, within the last.
Are they
72 hours.
are they playing like a full episode, or is it like a extended preview type of thing?
It says it just sneak peek, exclusive sneak
Oh.
peek. I would I was like, man, it'd be cool if they showed, episode 1, but
Yeah, like right after the show, like right after the movie
Yeah.
ends, and then
Yeah.
that would be kind of cool.
Well, is there like
Yeah.
a run? I guess you could check like the runtime of your theater, see how long you're going to be there for. Right? I imagine that's got to be somewhere.
My
If it's over like
screenings,
3.5 hours, you're getting a full episode.
it's like it starts at 6. It's one screening of the Batman.
Yeah.
Okay.
One day only at AMC.
Which is a bummer because I would
theaters.
go see this, but I got to work
Yeah.
Thursday. That's the
Yeah.
thing. If this was on like a Saturday, I'd be there.
Yeah, I'm going. So I think Jake's going. I don't know. I think Mike's going to Denver, but I'm going to go. I want to see the Batman again on the big screen, even though I've seen it numerous times on.
That's a
either
quick turnaround
Max
too, by the
or-
way, to have it back on the big screen. That's pretty
Yeah,
fast.
I mean, well, you got the Penguin. I mean, it's
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a marketing publicity thing, and that's cool.
Is it is it like exclusive at like a Fathom event type of thing, or is it like every theater is?
It's AMC only.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I forget who it was. Somebody said, I think it was in the Facebook group, where they were like, the closest theater to me is like 2 hours away.
Oh, that was
Wow.
Chris Burke. So yeah, I got Cinemark closer, but I mean there's an AMC not too, I mean, like within 10 miles. So I'm going. And I'm anxious to see the Penguin. Justin, what's your thoughts on the Penguin? You looking forward to that series?
Yeah, no, I'm
or-
looking.
yeah,
I'm looking
yeah,
forward to
yeah.
it. Yeah. Me and Pete talked about it before. I love all the Long Halloween stuff. It looks like they're bringing in there, and so I'm
Yeah.
excited to see all of that kind of play out.
Yeah.
To me, the thing that's really got me really jazzed is how they recently have compared it a lot to Scarface, a Rise of Power type deal.
Hmm.
I'm really interested in seeing a real good take on Gangster Penguin. I'm fascinated. The last time they tried to do this, they failed miserably. I know that was a TV show that shall not be named, but that thing is an abysmal stain on Batman. And I mean, as much as I love DeVito, he's just not really what I would call the definitive Penguin, even in my eyes. As much as I love Batman Returns and that iteration, I'm really
Get in the
anxious to see
duck.
it. I mean, there's no ducks here, but
Hey,
hopefully,
you don't know.
hopefully-
There could
I
be a
mean,
duck.
Ozzy's got a pretty nice taste for cars. He's got that purple. He's got that purple Italian sports car, I believe. But yeah, I'm really pumped, man. I'm really excited to see this on a real full HBO Max production. I was actually just thinking the other day, like what was the last time DC was on HBO or Mac? Was it Titans? Was Titans the last
No,
real
Titans was-
Peacemaker?
Oh yeah, Peacemaker.
Okay, Peacemaker. I'm just trying. I was thinking more lines of like Batman, so I'm trying to like. I was like, and that
Oh, I
was
guess
a
it
little
was
bit.
Titans.
That was a little
Batman.
Titans on
sad,
Max.
too.
Is that where they put it? It
It
was on the
started on
DC,
DC
app.
Universe, and then DC
Okay.
Universe basically got absorbed into HBO Max.
Oh,
So then
okay.
like, and then I was like, because we're all really excited for the HBO part of this. Like we're all thinking like Sopranos, blah blah. Blah. But like at one point, Titans did get absorbed by HBO, and it didn't get any better, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just,
Well, I mean, that's the
just thinking about
showrunners,
it as a
though,
fan.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, HBO typically produces like high quality content. And I
Yeah.
think that's why you're throwing the HBO banner on the
Yeah.
Penguin, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
like,
But then I remember like they also improved the quality of Superman and Lois. Like when when Max started getting their hands on that show, it got a little bit better, right? So
I haven't seen
there's that side of it. So,
but
yeah,
I
I'm
wouldn't say
just-
Superman and Lois is like an HBO presentation. You know what I'm saying?
no,
Like,
but like it was when they got absorbed in, like they were HBO Max was like putting more money into it or something. It was some weird thing when they were just buying and selling each other and putting one when the left
hey,
hand.
if
was
that
just putting money
writing,
in.
if that writing ain't good though, like Titans.
Yeah.
Titans,
you
I
just
don't care
kinda
who
get
put it
worried.
out. That was awful.
But then you guys, I remember Peacemaker. We all fell in love with Peacemaker, and Watchmen did come out of HBO. So I'm not. I'm just again, just.
I
it
think
just
those
popped
are
in my
better
head.
examples. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I think, yeah.
But I'm
I
I'm
think,
going back to Batman, connecting everything to Batman. So I'm thinking about.
yeah,
that
no, I
stuff.
got you. But yeah, Watchmen, that was the
Yeah,
thing
Watchmen,
that was
that
good
was
about
crazy.
Watchmen is
Yeah.
it hit beyond like the comic book like world
Yeah.
of people
Yeah.
watching. Like
Absolutely.
everyone was talking about Watchmen and how
Well,
good it
and
was.
crazy enough, it's a sequel to the comic book, essentially.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's that was one of the best DC things, live action they
Ever.
put out was Watchmen. That was really, really good. And
Yeah,
I'm a
that-
fan. I like the movie. I mean, I'm maybe one of the few people, but I like the movie. And they got the animated, the animated movie coming out. Was it a 2-parter or something? Is it?
Yeah, I'm
is it
excited for that.
2-parter?
Actually, a
Yeah.
lot of people don't like the style of animation. I liked it. I go, oh, it looks good. Looks good.
That seems to be a trend these days.
That was fine with
I don't
me.
know. It looks
Yeah.
good to me. So
No problems. You know.
Did you all did going on tangent? Sorry. The Sandman. Did y'all watch that?
no,
That
was
I did
good
not
stuff.
I
Yeah,
didn't watch it.
it's DC. It was good. It was on FX. It's not an HBO thing, but
Mhm.
that was really good. Okay. Speaking of animation, we're talking about with the Watchmen. Batman Cape Crusader's been out a week. Pete, you got through it yet?
I'm holding off on the last episode because everyone tells me it's really good. So I'm kind of just holding. But I tell you what, man, I love this show. It's great. I don't love it as much as I love BTAS. Like that's kind of like my childhood animated cartoon Batman. Like that'll always kind of be like, and it's the gold standard still, in my opinion. You know, but it's right up there. I think it's great. I love the animation style. I love the storytelling. I who was it who was complaining about the Firefly episode? I really enjoyed that one. I think it was Gary who didn't like that one too much.
It wasn't me.
I thought I dug that. There's not much I really don't like about it. I thought the one thing I thought was weird was the whole episode with like the I don't know, the soul sucking teenage girl. That was a little crazy for me. But
Italian
I
Night,
didn't-
yeah.
yeah, that one was a little too far fetched for me, actually, because I was like, oh, Gentleman Ghost, that's dope. You know, like I'm like Kowalski, this is amazing. But
See, I didn't like the Gentleman Ghost episode.
I like the Gentleman Ghost episode. I didn't like the vampire chick episode.
I didn't like the vampire chick one.
But outside of that, it was cool.
We were watching it. I was watching it with my boys and we have a rule: we only watch Batman at nighttime. Like that's like the thing. So we were watching it last night, trying to catch up. Huh? Even 66.
Okay.
No. So I still have one left. So I didn't finish. We were like trying, and everyone was like, "I'm tired." So I got one left. But yeah, I was so lost on that episode only because it didn't explain it. All of a sudden, she just opens her mouth and like starts breathing in like their essence or whatever. Like Oliver was like, "What is it? Is she sucking in her bad breath, Dad?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. You know. It's so
that was a weird one.
It was definitely a weird one. I caught all like the Easter eggs for all the sidekicks. They had all repped except Damien and Tim.
That was the one that was. There's a lot of little Easter eggs and
I mean that
nods.
was Dick
was
Grayson
kind of
from
that was like over that was a little bit over the hammering it out. It wasn't very subtle, that little thing with all the Robins. But I mean,
well, my son thought it was going to be. He's like, oh, Robin's going to happen. I was like, I don't think so, son. I don't think there's no Robin in this show. He's like, but look at, and then my older boy, he's all, Dad, that's the same outfit he wore on the animated series. And I was like, what? And then so I looked it up, and it's like Robin's Reckoning. It's Dick Grayson looks exactly the same. He's wearing like the red hood,
Yeah,
sweater,
I personally think if the series goes long enough, we will get Robin, but I don't think it's gonna be one of those kids. I think now that's just early enough nod, where they can get away with it, and I think we'll see more of a traditional Robin somewhere down the line.
I like I said, I liked the Gentleman Ghost episode, but I didn't think that one and the Natalia Knight episodes with the kind of more paranormal type fantastical stuff than just straight up like no aliens or super powered beings, but just they were out of place with the other 8 episodes.
Yeah, I mean the Harvey stuff felt authentic to the show, but yeah it was like there wasn't like any type of a emotional growth of Batman, and it was like nothing. There was like no. There was a little bit of the Leslie Tompkins stuff, I don't know. I just felt like, what the heck is this Wednesday Addams chick doing? I had no idea.
Yeah,
I was a little lost, but
yeah.
I did like the one I liked a lot was the Barbara Gordon episode where everyone thinks they're after her father and they're not. I thought that one was great.
Yeah, that was good. That was cool because so that one had a little like Easter egg with I thought, oh, Deadshot, that's Deadshot trying to take him out in the beginning, so that was cool.
Yeah.
I was like, I like when there's a little bit of a you get a little bit of a wink, but it doesn't like destroy the whole through line of the show. We'll get
I'm
it.
with you. Yeah,
And if you don't get it, I did think like the sidekick stuff was it was too much because my kid kept thinking,
It was in your face, you know. It was
not in this show,
was
so I
not
promise
was
you.
not. So, did y'all have a favorite? I know you said both of y'all haven't watched the final episode of season 1, but do you have a favorite episode of the other 9?
Oh man,
I really like that first episode a lot, and I really like the Barbara Gordon episode. Harley Quinn's really good too. It's too early to tell really because I want to give them all a second watch as well.
Yeah, I like the onomatopoeia. Is that I don't know what the title of the show was. I'm going.
That was
by the
interesting.
villains.
I'm not very familiar with onomatopoeia.
He's
So like when
Kevin
he pops
Smith
up,
created him. He was in the Green Arrow comic. He came out of there, and so that's my first experience with that guy. But I think he was on Titans. Was he on Titans?
I forget he
Or
popped up
Green
in
Arrow or
print
something.
recently, and
Maybe on Arrow. I don't know. He was
Bauer
on.
was the one
He was on a
telling about
CW show somewhere. But yeah, I think I'm with you. That episode was really good. I was actually kind of like bummed to see the twist at the end. I was like, oh, I was hoping to get a little more Jim Corrigan stuff. Like, oh, I like that they picked him. You know, but I mean, again, I don't think we were going to get the Spectre on the show, but I like when you build out Gotham's police force with some characters. You know, they did that a little bit in the comics.
What they've done with Flash and Bullock is great in my opinion.
Yeah. The Bullock stuff, there's little conceits I have. I'm like, man, Bullock. I don't think Bullock's ever been dirty. He's grumpy.
Bullock's got a little bit of a murky publication history. I believe at one point he was kind of like a bumbling fool, idiot joke of a cop. Like literally, like he was, literally the donut cop who would go get donuts, come back and they fall in his face. He
came out of Suicide Squad. He came out of those books from Ostrander, and then he made his way into Gotham City.
Yeah, so he's kind of taken on a role over the years. I don't mind the difference, especially pairing him up with Flash. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was cool because I like the difference because again, like what they did with Firefly or Firebug,
bro.
Yeah, I thought Flash and Bullock and the Firebug episode were really.
That was a good episode.
You know, like my car needs fixing. Let me stop here, and we'll leave the doors unlocked.
Yeah,
like it's just like I dirty cops in Gotham City are really cool, and that's something that this show, and at least that's something that seems Matt Reeves is really going to lean into.
Yeah,
it's I did a Batman animation with Lauer a couple of days ago. It was for now we're going through the episodes individually, so y'all want to jump on some of that? Come on.
Yeah, I listened to that.
We did episode 2, and I said, I don't know. This is just my fandom. I was like, to me, Bullock was once a good cop, and just kind of went with the flow as most of the police force just became corrupt. But Flash to me was always, he's a bad guy all the way, has always been, and that's just my fan fiction. I mean,
one of my favorite Batman comic moments is Gordon kicking the crap out of Flash, and just actually in both year 1 and in the movie, in the movie I kind of like it a little bit more because I can hear, as much as I don't like what's his name's Jim Gordon, the dialogue as he's fighting Flash is really cool. So that voiceover really works for me.
That's You
don't like Breaking Bad guy?
Breaking Bad.
McKenzie's Batman.
Oh yeah,
McKenzie was Gordon on Gotham, but
yeah.
It's like 2 degrees of separation. I'm all twisted.
Yeah. Here's the one thing that I will say about and I'm talking to myself too, because sometimes I get so like I like things to be how they should be, kind of thing.
Oh, we know.
That's kind of just my thing, man. But at the same time, like, I imagine Bullock is on an arc, right? And so, like you were saying, Bill, like we know Flash to be dirty from the get-go, right? He's on the lam, right? He's like he's getting paid off, and he's about that life. It feels like at some point, probably season 2, because I haven't seen the last episode, Bullock's gonna have to make a choice, right? Mm-hmm. And like, is it gonna be, hey, am I dirty, or am I gonna go, on the right path? And so
because sometimes he seems hesitant with going along with Flash, right? Like there's only moments where like even Bullock's kind of like
and that's why I was gonna say, as a storyteller, if you know your core audience knows these characters, right? Like, man, well, I know Bullock's not dirty. I know he's kind of a butthole, but right. So for us, maybe we'll have a little bit of that like inside knowledge paid off later, and if not, whatever. But it would be cool to see. Oh, okay, Flash, Flash is dirty, but Bullock, he went straight.
Justin, you might remember this, but there's a comic book. I think this was published in the 80s where Bullock and Robin, I think, team up, and he ends for some reason. I think Robin ends up going back to Bullock's place, and we find out Bullock is a huge movie buff. I forget what comic, because he's got like movie posters all over his apartment and everything. We find out like it's just an odd characteristic of Bullock that I don't think ever really took off. But I
remember there was an issue called A Bullet for Bullock, and then they adapted it for the animated series.
They did, yes.
But
that was good.
Yeah, I don't remember.
That. I think this is before Bullock. They did a little bit of a.
There was a character in the Robin comic that was like his name was Shotgun something. I forget his name, but he was kind of like a riff on Bullock. But no, I don't remember that.
To be honest, I'm sure guys like Bullock are kind of a dime a dozen, to be honest. They're just out there trying to survive. Like, yeah, the force is dirty. Maybe they not be dirty, but they need money. They're just like, like, what am I going to do? Say no to cash?
Bro, he's got a task force now. What are you talking about, dude? He's leading. The mayor put him up, gave him a promotion, dude.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, like a cop salary, like, a little bit extra cash helps, right? Like, let's be honest.
Every cop I know, bro, makes pretty decent money. I don't know about this cop's salary.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about within the context of like traditional movies, right? Like the crooked cop is always the cop who's desperate, right? Like he's the cop who needs to pay his bills and everything like that. I guess it's true for anybody, but
you're getting that lifestyle of, like Justin said, with Flash, when money comes that easy, it seems that Bullock's a little bit on the weaker side, that's just like I said, that's my thing is like he was good at one time. Now he's gotten into it because he's partners with Flash. And then, I like your suggestion. We'll see what happens in season 2.
Gotham's dirty, man.
Then they are, it seems these characters are evolving as they go. I'm not going to say anything about that. See, you haven't watched episode 10.
What's that like scene in Begins where he goes like, guys getting nervous, hoping you want a taste,
yeah.
Typical Flash.
Before we move on, I really liked that Clayface episode that we just talked about on the Batman animation.
You're not a big goop blob guy.
No, and I thought that they
go with the original Clayface, the original one.
Yeah, they took Basil Karlo, and he was very loyal to that incarnation, and even that story from, I think it was Detective Number 40, I believe.
And he ended up actually looking like, what was it, Boris Karloff? A lot of people pointed out.
Well, he was based on He was even the original, from the comics was a riff on Boris Karloff, but
that's great. I actually did not know that.
I thought it was pretty clever that they did pay an homage to the shape-shifting blob of goo or whatever, mud or whatever, clay in it by, with his face being moldable with some experimental drug. So that didn't bother me. That's why I said it. I said it in the season review I wrote for the overall season. I said it's like 75% grounded, because I give that Clayface episode it's like half, because you got the moldable face. But
I feel like that's a good percentage for Batman, to be honest.
I like the whole, but I did I like the whole old golden age Hollywood, old school whodunit detective mystery thing. I just really like that episode. So there's some other good ones. Yeah, episode 10 is really good. I'm looking forward to see what y'all think about that.
Yeah.
I got an idea what happens. I don't know how it happens, but I'm just kind of like, it's just like, okay. But I'm like, I'm gonna savor this one.
The last one we watched was the Two-Face one. And that's okay, I'll tell you, that bugs me. Why couldn't his scarring be on his face, man? On the other side of his face.
Justin's not gonna buy the action figure.
Man, it bugged the heck. It bugged Oliver. Oliver's all, come on. He's like, why? Oliver, he's 12, and he's like, Dad, they just did that to be different. And I'm like, yeah. There was no real reason. He was like, in his reasoning is really funny. He's like, you know why they did that? Because they didn't want to reanimate the scene where he opens the door and you only see the clean side of his face. I'm like, well, they just would have animated the other way, but he's trying to figure out why they made his face on the other side. And I really don't know.
It's kind of like
it does bug me. I don't know why. It's one of those things that's like, why'd you all do that?
It's kind of like Oswaldo. I'm curious as to why were you like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Let's go. All right, this is it. Final decision.
Oswaldo.
Not like I hate it. I'm just curious.
Was good, but I still am like, I just prefer the Penguin to be like the
Penguin
rich guy. Yeah, the Penguin. and for that, I was like, oh, so you all just wanted her to sing? That was about it. Like there was no other reason for me. I'll tell you, for Oswaldo, there was no reason for them to make her a lady other than they wanted her to be a lounge singer for like 3 minutes.
I think
I would think that
a mother murdering her son.
Yeah, I think
a little more weight.
Hey, it could have been a father murdering his kids. I mean,
yeah, but it's to be killed by the womb which you came is a pretty sadistic thing, man.
I agree with that.
It was different. It was different to be different. That was it. I'll say
I think
that's okay.
It wasn't a bad episode.
The singing is a part of it, and I think the opening with what she does with her son is another. I think the two of them together are the reasons why they did it. Would I have preferred a male Penguin? Yeah, but like these things are things that. Well, the Two-Face thing is a thing that I was like, oh, this is gonna to me, it's not gonna bother me. It's all about kind of more about characterization and development and stuff like that. And then I was like, this is more of an artistic take when they kind of flip the sides. It's like, but I was like, I always get surprised when something like this bothers somebody. I just do because it's kind of minuscule,
Well, I mean, it doesn't bother me where I'm like, I'm gonna write an essay, but I'm like, to me, I'm like, that was a choice that it doesn't make sense to me, like. And it's just one of those things where it's like, why did y'all do that?
We did bring up last time we talked Penguin and Oswaldo, differentiating her from Colin. Like maybe they wanted to make something different, which I brought up was the complete opposite of what they did in like 92, where they almost mimicked DeVito's Penguin to a T. I thought that was interesting. That was an interesting point. But yeah, I hope. If Mr. Tucker ever joins the show,
well, I was about to say, I'll ask James Tucker. I did invite James to come on
just to get the answer. I mean, who else?
He
who
agreed.
Would be better to deliver that answer?
He would go. I bet you he'd get on the show. You just gotta.
Yeah, he agreed. He said they're busy. Super busy with they're doing season 2 right now. So he's really busy.
That's a little bit more important than my stupid question.
I got questions.
The last thing I'll mention about this is I talked about it with Lauer is like, I would love to see like the show Bible and the character Bibles about, because they do the backgrounds and stuff like that when they do these shows. I'd like to know, the backstory of something like Bullock and was he good at one time? And Oswald. I always get Oswald. I can say Oswaldo. Okay. Anyway, her background, but her stuff.
She's a babe.
Spoiler alert: stuffing her kid in a suitcase.
Let's be honest. Oswald is probably the hottest MILF we've seen since Mrs. Jetson.
She is. She's like
at least in animation, right?
She was Mae West and. Mal Barker
we lost Justin.
Combination.
Sorry, I was looking for something. I couldn't find it. I was like, oh man.
All right.
Was it Jane Jetson? Was that her name?
Jane Jetson.
Jane Jetson.
Was that her name?
Yeah, Betty.
The Jetsons.
Rubble.
Betty Rubble. Betty Rubble's a babe too, bro.
Yeah. All right. Cartoon women. I don't know.
Bugs Bunny when he dresses up as a lady, right?
Yeah.
That's not really my thing.
Well, Bugs Bunny is a Warner Brothers cartoon. And speaking of Warner Brothers.
Hey, there we go.
Thanks for that segue there. Warner Brothers is they're a mess. Warner Brothers, I should say Warner Brothers Discovery is a mess. 9.1 billion write down this week. Their legacy TV. One thing, losing the NBA. TNT on the NBA, losing that's not good. They lost the NBA.
Holzman's going crazy with that.
They got, so I guess all the, Discovery and Home and Garden and TNT and TBS they're just not doing well. I mean, any legacy TV stuff. And look, I mean, stock is way down to like, I don't know, was it $6 a share dropped to? And look, I've always thought from what people tell me who know way more than I do about that business is that it's all the end game is to sell this.
Yeah.
Strip all this down as much as you possibly can, cut corners. I mean, they've laid people off left and right. They're running with the bare minimum of folks. Like I know nobody there. I used to know a lot of people who work for Warner Brothers, and I mean, they're all gone. And, they tried to get rid of, what is it? Turner Classic Movies. And, then the big time directors raised hell and end up saving it sort of, in a way, but they're like funding it. Scorsese and Spielberg and them were, it's just,
I'm just curious. Like, if the end game is to sell, who are they selling to? Like, who's just from my standpoint as a fan who kind of casually follows the business side of this stuff, it seems like this whole Warner Brothers thing is a huge failure. Who wants to buy this? Who really, everyone thinks they can come in and save Warner Brothers, like AT&T, Discovery, and all they end up doing is like, oh, well, we screwed this up even more than when we got it. It's time to sell. Like, I don't get it. Like,
I think AT&T got into it, bought it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
They were all about HBO Max. I mean, that was what they came in, and that's what,
streaming and all that stuff.
Yeah, the streaming. And then they got out, and Discovery bought all that debt, took on all that debt, negotiated. And then I think Discovery.
But who else has this kind of money? Is what I'm saying. Like, what other companies are out there?
I think they came in straight in with the end game always to be. It's like flipping a house.
Yeah,
they were going to.
I just don't know who they're going to flip to. Like, I know you have
Universal. I hear.
Is it Universal?
I hear Universal more than any other.
So Universal's going to own Warner Brothers? It's so crazy.
Well, maybe. Who knows?
Just thinking about
it would be weird. It would be weird,
but then again, like Disney just bought out Fox. Like, it's probably the same thing, right?
I mean, it would be probably a merger more than than anything. But I mean, Warner Brothers Pictures is one of the great Hollywood studios,
as is Universal, which is why it's kind of funny.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just it's like when I talk about Matt Reeves, Matt Reeves being able to do what he wants. Well, they need Matt Reeves more than Matt Reeves needs them, because you lost Nolan, and they're trying to run Clint Eastwood out the door as fast as they can, even though he's making another movie for them. And they need Todd Phillips. They need some of these big time visionary directors, because I mean, you had the biggest one, and you let him go because
everything's going to come down to the Batman sequel, the Joker 2, and whatever James Gunn. Like, that's kind of the reason, right? Those are the big $1 billion franchises. Am I wrong? Like, that's
Harry Potter.
I know Superman's not a $1 billion franchise. It hasn't been, but that's what they want. Let's be honest. They're hoping it's going to be a $1 billion movie. The expectations for Superman have always seemed a little bit unrealistic and unfair for them. But
what's the last hit Warner Brothers had?
Overall, as a studio, I don't know. That's like
was Barbie a Warner Brothers film?
Yes. Yeah. Barbie.
Okay. Okay. So Barbie. But then
maybe that was it.
Oh, Dune did okay for them, right?
Dune. Yeah.
Yes.
Dune.
I'm just trying to think. Like, was Furiosa? Was that Warner Brothers?
Yes.
That didn't do well.
No.
It was critically acclaimed, but it didn't.
I think it went from Dune. You went from Dune to Deadpool and Wolverine as far as making huge money.
Well, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's.
I think one of the things that I think, I don't know anything about the business. I just think about like what was explained to me before one time is like, it's really important to movie studios is to do comedies and horror films because they're cheap to produce and they tend to have a better return. They're not making billions of dollars, but they'll make their budgets back, and
that's why 80 slashers were so great.
They do well, and they help fund the box office, the big guys, right? They help to make it possible for us to do that. But with the way the landscape goes with like streaming and all this stuff, I think you're trying to still hit box office tickets, right? But you're trying to build out your streaming, and they're shooting each other in the foot, you know? Like
Yeah.
you really, if you're trying to have billion-dollar films, I think that's the wrong goal. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
not every film's going to be Deadpool, Wolverine. That's just like, you knew that was going to make money. Like
Yeah.
that was just kind of
Yeah.
like, it had all the ingredients, but it's hard to like get people out to the theater. I haven't gone to a movie since, I don't know, the last movie I saw in the theater.
Mm.
You know, I saw
Before Deadpool and
Deadpool.
Wolverine. Oh man, I don't
Yeah,
remember what it was.
I don't know what I saw. I feel like I saw something with my wife, but I don't. Oh, I saw that freaking that movie was like end of the world. It was like a war. It was like a war going on, and there was like a
Civil War wasn't called
Civil War. I saw that.
Okay.
And that was it. Like, I'm trying to think, like, I won't go out to the theater that much. It has to be, I didn't even see Aquaman in the theater. And I'm a
Yeah.
hardcore
Yeah,
like
no,
DC guy.
I'm
I was
with you,
like,
man.
I'll wait.
My
I
work
just didn't
schedule is
care.
nights. Like if I don't see a movie on Saturday, there's fat chance I'm seeing it on Sunday. To be
I
honest
think
with
the
you.
last I went was Oppenheimer.
Wow.
So that was last summer,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So I think I don't know how to solve all this stuff, but it does feel like, man, a movie studio should maybe just focus on making movies. I don't know if that floats the whole house. I know you have to have like,
Yeah.
I
you have
also
to
think
diversify and all this other stuff, but like they
movie
said,
tickets are so damn expensive, man. Inflation's crazy. I know
yeah,
Deadpool and Wolverine's making cash, but there's a reason why people are only selectively seeing movies. Whether
yeah,
they've got to spend their money elsewhere, and the fact that the tickets are expensive. It's just that's I think that's still a huge part of it. The
yeah.
economy still factors in.
Didn't you guys just share an article about how Suicide Squad killed WB Games?
Yeah, we on
Like
Straight Outta
that
Gotham.
that just that just
It just
did
gave it a
so
massive hit.
terribly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, man. I don't know what their solve is. I don't know. Selling it off to like another studio it does feel weird to me, because you think about, the major studios of,
But it's still the most Hollywood thing ever because
Well,
let's
yeah.
be
I
honest, like
mean,
Hollywood's like, well, we can do this better than them, idiots. And then
who
they're just like,
is,
well, who can we sell this to next?
yeah.
I mean, Disney, who they take it? Fox,
Yeah, they took
Yeah.
Fox.
Fox. Was there another one before? I can't
I mean,
remember.
no, they just
I can
bought.
remember.
I mean, they bought like Marvel and
Yeah, they
Yeah,
bought
I mean
Marvel.
they've been kind of doing, which is very interesting because I feel like this has been happening in like other places too. Like Xbox bought like a bunch of game studios, Activision, Bethesda, and all that, and they're just like absorbing it to try to like beat their competition, but they're failing miserably. Which is kind of, I guess, Xbox is like the Warner Brothers of the video game
Yeah.
superhero comparison. I just don't know who can buy it. To be honest, you said Universal. I just don't know who has all this money.
Well, they're still going to have the same problems. The thing is, that,
Yeah.
like, it sounds like the problem is, what are you making? What are you putting out there? And
Which is interesting because it's like, to bring this up, and I think Justin's the perfect point to counter. It's like, well, you just did it, shared universe. Now you're gonna try it again. Like it didn't work. I get it, different guy, different concept, but it's like it's really close to the last
Well,
time we
that's
did this.
okay. That's where we're
I
getting
think
to.
we need a break there.
It's DC, the new DCU, James Gunn, Peter Safran. They just filmed Superman, and it's
Just
finished
wrapped.
filming. So they're in,
Yeah.
and they're giving this whole shared universe thing another try at a time where, and this is just my take. I mean, at a time where, yes, Wolverine, Deadpool, Wolverine, Deadpool, whatever, 220, 221, whatever it takes, did really well. But even the mighty MCU has been not doing as well after the end game. All right, guys, let's stop for just a moment for these words from our sponsor. I just don't. Well, I know the reason behind it. This is a Zaslav directive to try, and that's part of the thing, is boost up the DCIP, make it as valuable as possible for a potential buyer.
Which I think is great in terms of putting it as like a priority. Like I think making DC a priority and making, trying to make it as best as it can be is a good thing. I do.
Yeah.
Even if he's
But
just
they've all said that. They've all
Yeah.
said that. Like, even what was it, Robinov?
Yeah, well, they're all used car salesman politicians. They want our money.
No, I know. I still remember the article. I don't know what magazine it was, but it had Robinov, and he was at his desk. He had a Green Lantern ring on, like he was a mob boss. and it was like the future of DC is important, you know. And I remember the article. I remember a few of the points, and like, hey, we're gonna put some real effort into building this out. And this was probably a couple years after. It was before Avengers. I know that, because they were talking about Green Lantern coming out, and they were like, hey,
It always comes back to
like
Avengers in the first $1 billion,
2011,
bro.
huh?
around
I said it always-
2011. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, no, I was just saying it was before Avengers came out, so there wasn't some
Yeah.
billion-dollar hit
Okay,
yet,
it
right?
was before
Dark Knight was the billion-dollar hit. That was like I don't know if that was the wake-up call or the bell rung, like, hey, you know, if we know we're sitting on a bunch of stuff, because there was still the rumor. It was like the Flash movie was supposed to come out. David Goyer was working on that.
That's
There was
right.
all this stuff, and so I remember in the article he was like, we're moving forward, and we're gonna look at this like Action Comics #1, which was weird because it was Green Lantern, because they were like, hey, Nolan's thing's ending, and he acknowledged that like this will come, you know, he's got one more coming, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna put Green Lantern out, and we think it's comparable to Iron Man, yada yada yada. Yeah. Oh, that was the whole thing. They were like, oh, we can do our thing, and we want to, you know, invest in these characters. And I'm like, cool. Like for me, I was DC fan, like, let's do these characters. And but they've never had anyone like shepherd it. That was the thing. They didn't really have a shepherd, or they tried to, but they didn't really trust them, you know. Like
I think they trusted Snyder up until BVS.
Yeah, but that was like,
well, there was
one
there
film.
well, we go
One film.
You know, that if we had Man of Steel was supposed to be, which I defend Man of Steel. I always say I borderline love it, but I get the negative reaction to it. I get that. Nolan, of course, wrote the story. Goya wrote the screenplay. Nolan produced it. It was supposed to be Batman Begins for Superman.
Yeah.
And they went instead. They didn't make Man of Steel 2. They made BVS, you know, they made BVS. Then they gave Snyder full creative control, and the rest is
history.
And
no, I would say
yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
I'll say that I am not anti DC film. I wanted another, you know, give Superman another go. I have thoughts about whether I think it's going to be successful or not. But what is wrong with okay, we're going to lean into our DC IP, and we're going to get directors, you know, like a Matt Reeves, like Todd Phillips, to come in, and James Gunn for that matter. I love his the Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
I love Peacemaker, and just make a Superman film, and let's see what happens. Let's make a whatever, you know, just give me another character, Booster Gold, whatever. And then I just trying to replicate what Disney did with the MCU, which was just that was a happening, just a cultural, societal phenomenon, organic. This is very contrived to try to get that, when
it always feels like
they're late. They've done it once, it failed, and we can sit here and talk about all the reasons why we think it failed. But like people tell me more than one, you know, what do people say about DC? It's a dead brand, you know, except for Batman. It's a dead brand.
Yeah.
And I would just make a Superman movie. Why we have to do the shared universe again, you know?
My thing is just like, if you're going to mimic the MCU, I think you have to mimic the foundation of the MCU. It seems they always want to jump, DC Warner Brothers always wants to jump into phase 2. Well, can we establish them and just do phase 1 first? Like, I'm not anti-shared universe. I just always feel like they're rushing it.
Yeah. So here's what I would say, because I don't want to retread the same conversation over and over and over again. But I would say this. If you, at the point where they said, hey, Snyder's our architect, or, you know, he talked a lot about sandboxes and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The audience needs to get invested. That's what Marvel did. Iron Man made a lot of money, but Thor and Captain America,
that phase 1 was a slow burn up to Avengers.
They were
man.
not. They I think they maxed out at like 500-something thousand. Maybe a Thor hit high 6. I don't know.
I think Thor was comparable to Man of Steel. That was the comparison. Like, that got a sequel and we did it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I would have done as Warner Brothers is like every film can't hit $1 billion. They had this like, if it ain't $1 billion, it's not a success, right? And it there's just no way to build an audience if you're like, especially if you're trying to build a world to like to kind of reboot the idea again. Well, we'll change it. We'll change it again. We'll do this. We're gonna reshoot this. We're gonna do like you won't get any. You're not gonna have a tone that people are familiar with. Like when you go from BVS to the Justice League reshoots, it doesn't fit. Like it's there's a definite like shift in tone, and the whole vibe of it was like, oh, this is a whole different thing, right? It wasn't true to what was established, whether you like it or not. It was disjointed, right? You know, they Frankensteined it at the end, and so you're not going to have audience buy-in if you keep changing like how you're going to run it. So if you have a plan, like
stick to it,
stick to your plan, because Marvel did it and it worked out for them. Right now, I don't think every film is always going to hit, and you do. I think it's good for Marvel to get some losses because, you know, sometimes there's a little bit of your blueprint.
I mean, for a while, dude, they were just banking out $1 billion after $1 billion Superman.
Yeah, and sometimes you're like,
and Captain Marvel and Spider-Man Far From Home are trash.
Yeah. You're like, people saw this, but hey, they went and saw it because they trusted the brand. DC didn't have any trust with the public. After a while, it was like you'd hear it, you'd see like a DC logo in a trailer, and people would be like, you visibly hear it, right? I talked to my kids, like their friends, and they liked Marvel because Marvel makes good movies in their opinion. DC doesn't make good movies. That was their and I was like, really? Like, what about Dark Knight? Oh, I haven't seen that, because they were younger, right? And so they're just like, that was the other thing. If you're trying to build a franchise like this, like, you got to make Superman palatable to everybody. It can't be, I remember taking Asher, he was like probably 4, to Man of Steel. That was a mistake. Like, he just didn't want to watch that, right? It was Man of Steel wasn't for kids.
Everyone loves Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. Everyone loves him, dude.
Because it was fun.
You're totally right on that.
Yeah, it was
they
fun.
fell in love with that guy so much so that he's apparently the savior of the MCU, and he's coming back.
But I'm not saying Superman needs to have the same tone as Iron Man, but what I'm hoping for,
he needs to be loved.
yeah, he needs to be loved. He needs to be like, if you can make Captain America $1 billion franchise, like, and I always thought, I like Captain America, but he's kind of goofy, like wings on the head and all that stuff. But like, hey, they made it work. Superman needs to work. I think whether you're a shared universe guy or you're a single film guy, like, I like the idea. I've always known DC to be. DC is just DC to me. Like, they all know each other. Like, why wouldn't they know each other? That's just my experience growing up reading the books. It was never like an isolated thing. It was like, Batman's part of this group of heroes. That's just what I've known, right? That's just how I
always
grew
felt
up.
that through movies, though, it's such kind of like an event, special occasion, where it can't mimic the comics, because comics have so much history and everything that's been. DC Comics was around long before I was around, so to try to fit all that in a movie almost seems like a daunting challenge. It's kind of like what people said about Watchmen before Snyder made the movie. Like, you can't do this; it's impossible.
Yeah. Well, it's. I don't want Aquaman to show up in the Batcave and be like, "Hey, bro," like, that's not what I'm looking for. But I've used this metaphor before. I think it works. Like, we're all on a podcast together, right? We're hanging out right now. But later on in the day, I gotta do the things that I gotta do. I'm aware of Pete. I'm aware of Bill. But when I go and mow my lawn, I'm doing that by myself. I gotta take care of Gotham City. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are things that they don't always have to tie in, but they do exist. And like, when you had even like goofy things, like in Batman Forever, he was like, "Oh, this is train's halfway to Metropolis." But okay, that was Batman and Robin. But
right,
you know what I'm saying? Like, there is an acknowledgement, like, hey, we're part of a bigger world. If we need, if there's a reason to put them together, then put them together if it makes sense. But I don't want everything to feed into each other. I don't think that makes sense. And so, all that being said, I don't know what James Gunn is doing with his take. I'm glad that it feels like finally, like, this feels like a real thing. It feels like, hey, it is a studio. They have like a brain trust. It sounds like there's a trust there. They've noticed we haven't had this for years. We've been talking about it. They couldn't get anybody to do it. And then James Gunn's like, him and Peter Safran, we're going to do it. We can take over it. We have an idea. So my hope is that they give him at least Like give him some time. If Superman doesn't do well, don't yank the cord from him. Don't reboot.
You made a great point. Like,
yeah,
keep with it, because imagine if the MCU said we're stopping after Hulk. Incredible Hulk didn't work. People didn't resonate with people. We're done.
Yeah, because it sounds like they have a good plan. Like he said, hey, they have an idea of where they want to go, but they're not going to film anything until the script is in and the script is good. And then when that happens, we'll cast. Sounds like they have a plan. And I'm being super hopeful, and I'm being super like positive about it, because I would like for these films to do well. Like I want to see freaking James Mangold Swamp Thing film, right? Haven't heard about it.
See that after his recent comments.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I saw that, but I'm like, stuff like that excites me. I'm like, I want to see Swamp Thing show up, right? I would love to see that.
I just don't want to see Swamp Thing and, like, I don't know, Ambush Bug hang out.
Well, why would you?
Exactly.
That's kind of.
I know that's like that's like worst case scenario, but that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't need the overt stuff it down my face. I know they're all together. I've always envisioned them all together. I know even when it comes to Nolan, I envision there's something out there that's crazy and weird on the other side of the country. Like but like again, it's not in that movie, so I don't really care. It's just I'm more concerned about what I'm seated in front of and how much I like it and how good and respectful I think it is to the characters.
Yeah.
At that point,
I hear you. And like even the leaks and stuff that have come out with Superman, like, man, I was the first one to be like, what the balls is going on with? I'm a Guy Gardner fan. I don't know what the heck they're doing with the character. When I saw the leaked stuff, I'm like, I'm not a fan of that look, but maybe there's a reason. So I'm trying to
cautiously optimistic.
I'm trying to be optimistic. Like maybe it'll go in a way where I'm like, oh, okay, I see what they did there. But I trust James Gunn. I haven't seen anything by him where I didn't like it. Like I was like, okay, every film he's done, I'm pretty much a fan of. I even like Guardians 2. Some people don't like that one. I like
that's the only one. That's the only Gunn movie I don't enjoy. Is actually.
I think James Gunn will very much do justice to the Superman character. I 100% believe that. I also believe that, and this is just with me, Superman's like my second favorite character. It kind of depends on. I like Spider-Man a lot. That's like the only Marvel character I really like. And the Hulk. I like the Hulk because the show in the set when I was a kid. Who
doesn't love
Bill Bixby and all that. Anyway, but like Superman the movie is like in my top 5 favorite movies of all time.
You just made Garrett so happy.
The casting I liked. I have a crush on Rachel Brosnahan from Mrs. Maisel. I think she's great. I think she'd be a great Lois. Then when they added the non-Superman characters, and I know they'd be like, well, it makes sense to the story. That's fine, but let's be honest, they're in there because you're playing on a shared universe. Guy Gardner will get spun off if it's successful. We'll see these other characters in something down the line, and that's kind of like, really, can you just make a Superman movie? And I lost interest. And then I gotta wonder, maybe just Superman, a Superman movie, maybe there's just not a big interest in it. And I think with so much writing on this movie, and this concerns me, I think it's unfair to the movie in a way than to the character. There's so much writing on it because of the shared universe thing. If it doesn't hit big, like y'all brought up, I mean, they should stay the course, but I don't know if they'll give it a chance to pull a Batman Begins, where what I mean. Batman Begins was modest hit at best, and then it just caught on fire with word of mouth and home video and whatnot. And like you've already set up the Supergirl film and cast Supergirl. That's still a little bit to me of, and the announcing of things. We've already got all the like Brave and the Bold, and I've already had someone tell me what they announced with Brave and the Bold is not going to be what Brave and the Bold is going to end up being if they get to it. And so I just
that's fair.
There's
a lot of.
That's where I
think that's I think Marvel's kind of changed the industry in that sense. I think that's what people expect or fans expect from the comic book genre. I think Marvel's almost kind of like Band-Aid. Like
Well, I don't think
everything's a
anybody
Band-Aid,
went and saw the
you know?
Batman expecting, Booster Gold to show up and, or
No.
another DC character to show
No,
up.
but they expect like fans expect slates and big announcements and conventions and things at cons.
Well,
That's what I'm
fans
talking about.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
fans
think,
like
but that's
But
but
fans
again,
don't
that's what that
matter. I
stuff's
mean, not
orchestrated
fans matter.
towards.
We're fans. I'm not saying
general
fans.
audience doesn't like.
Yeah.
I always use my brother-in-law and my sister are like
Yeah.
my perfect because they always ask the questions.
Yeah, because they're normal.
They're normal, and I remember we saw Flash last year, and we had lunch afterwards and we were talking, and the big question was, why was Nicolas Cage in this? Right? And I had to give them a whole
It's a
like
deep cut.
15-minute like understanding of why, and they're like,
Yeah.
but they never made that, right? I was like, no. Oh, well, why was he in it? I go, it was literally a joke for people who knew. Like, oh, I never knew that. My sister was like, I think I read that. I'm like, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. It was just confusing to them, right? Like for us as a fan, we're like, oh my gosh, that's cool.
I'm curious what
But
they
like,
would say about Tatum in Deadpool Wolverine.
oh yeah,
Same situation,
they,
right?
They didn't ask me, yeah. But yeah, but they don't understand a lot of the stuff. My brother-in-law thought Green Lantern was part of Avengers stuff. Like he was like, how does he connect into all that stuff? Because at that point everything was building up. If you remember 2011, we just talked about it. Like it was like Thor, Captain America, and he was like, oh, is Green Lantern a part of that? I was like, no, man, whole different universe.
Most people thought the X-Men were already in the MCU.
Yeah. So
Marvel movies were just Marvel movies. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
because you had the ticker tape in the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Marvel. Like it was like, oh, is this? Are these all? At some point they'll probably meet up, right?
And Fox still couldn't cash in on Marvel brand loyalty.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with all of that. Again, my approach is always like I just feel like they all exist together, but I don't necessarily think everybody needs to be in the same movie. But if Gunn thinks that, hey, this is how I want to do it, it makes sense, then I don't want to also go like it's gonna be this whole thing where it's Superman Guy Garden the whole time. Maybe they're only in it for like 3 minutes. Who knows? Like we don't know how long they're in the film. But I just hope that they give them a shot. But I am kind of glad that they got other stuff in the pipeline, because here's the thing: if Superman comes out and it does moderately well, let's say it hits high sixes, all right, like Man of Steel money.
Is that enough?
I don't know. Who's
Honestly,
to say?
I don't
Hopefully it's enough, because they've got other stuff going, right? They've got, hey, we have this Green Lantern show we're working on.
I think their
Supergirls
expectations for Superman are more important than what we, than anything else. Like, what do they expect this movie to do? Because that's the most important thing. Because if it meets that number, great. If it doesn't, we're screwed, because how reactionary they can be.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They need to not be reactionary anymore. They need to make business. They need to make money. Like I get that, but if Superman doesn't hit like $1 billion, I think that expectation needs to be taken off the table. Like I think
that I agree with. I agree with that. That's
hopefully moving forward, they find budgets that are manageable, right? Like, hey, let's not everything's going to be a Joker, because that movie didn't need a big giant budget, right? Right, but it had a great return, right? If you can probably tell amazing Batman story, like noir style, on a pretty decent budget, right? And you'd probably have a really good return, right? There's a lot of characters you can do that, man. If you did the freaking Dead Man movie, you did like Constantine stuff, like not low budget, but like moderate.
We just
budget
talked about how horror
stuff.
movies are cheap and easy, like
Dead Man.
You
can do stuff like that would be cool, and it doesn't have to like connect, right? You can do a Dead Man. It doesn't have to be.
I wanted Dead Man. You can have like Quantum Leap. HBO series.
That'd be a better show. That'd be a better TV show thing.
That's been my thing for like Dead Man, like Quantum Leap horror. 8 episodes type deal. But anyway, I'm getting
yeah. But I don't know. I think there's a richness to DC's history, which sometimes there's going to be a payoff. Like, oh man, that was really cool how they incorporated that. Like if they did a Dead Man show, I would be cool if it was like, hey, it took place at Haley's Circus, and you see a little bit of like, oh, there's the Graysons, but it's not about Robin. It's like, oh, he's doing some trapeze act with John Grayson. Like that's cool. Doesn't like do anything but go, oh, that's that guy. That's Robin's dad one day. Okay, like I'm okay with that. But if it's like you got to watch Dead Man to figure out what's happening in Booster Gold, I'm not about that. I don't think that makes sense, and I don't think audiences want that anymore either. Like, I think you can have a richness. It's like the Kevin Smith films. Like Jay and Silent Bob always kind of work their way through, but you can watch Chasing Amy, and it has nothing to do with Mallrats, and has nothing to do with Dogma and whatever. You know, bad examples.
There's a lot of Ben Affleck. In
there's
those
a lot of Ben Affleck.
Yeah. There's that's kind of what I think got the MCU. It became so convoluted. I mean, I lost complete interest in it.
It definitely bit them in the foot. This,
I mean, there was so much
this round,
that you had to see, and if you hadn't seen it, like with the Doctor Strange and then the WandaVision, which I haven't seen any, I don't have any idea. I would be totally lost. And we
talked about this with Javi. Yeah, from between Multiverse of Madness to Deadpool and Wolverine, Bill needs a huge catch up.
I think I think you can watch Deadpool. You'd be fine. Like,
probably with Deadpool, I would be, because I watched all those.
Did you watch Loki?
I haven't seen Loki.
You don't need to watch. They explain.
The TV is a big part of that movie, man.
Because I didn't watch season 2 of Loki. I watched a couple of them and like.
But you watched the first season.
Yeah, it was boring. I didn't like it.
No, I get it, but like that's a lot of information.
But I think they explain it pretty well, and that it's probably the longest part of that movie. I'm like, dude, they could have cut this down by like 5 minutes. I think they explain that whole.
I think that the problem is a lot of people didn't watch Loki.
There you go.
So they had to explain it. And explain
it. It isn't, dude. Once you get past that, you get it. Like it explains it well. So,
but I also think they're doubling down though. Like I don't think Marvel's really kind of learned the way of their errors. Like I just now that all the rumors are like, oh, Tony, there's going to be a new Iron Man, a variant Iron Man in the next blah blah blah, and you're just kind of like, if these rumors come out to be true, it's like, have they learned anything? They're just leaning more into this multiverse stuff, which I don't know. Me personally, I'm done with the multiverse. Like at least like when I talk about the DC, I'm like, at least it's a clean slate. No one's popping up anymore. There's no timelines. It's just one for a change. Like one timeline is actually refreshing. Even if it's an extended, timeline with all these different characters, I'm just like, it's a clean timeline. I'm not looking at characters from the past or whatever. Cause I'm just like, I'm just, as much as I love the Flash, I'm like, I don't need timelines anymore. I'm so past this multiverse stuff.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to see multiverse stuff anymore. I don't know if we need that.
Yeah, I'm done with it, dude. I've been dealing with it since Flash season 2.
I don't mind. I don't mind multiverse stuff if there's like a purpose to it, but I don't know if like we need to see any of that. And like,
I don't know. I just feel like, and Flash included, all these multiverse movies are like, okay, we got a pretty decent story. Here's a bunch of characters you should have cared about 20, 30 years ago. We'll see if that works. And here's a lot of action with some music. Like I just, between the Flash, Deadpool, Wolverine, No Way Home, I just feel like we're just retreading the same things over and over again. And some of these things are working, some of them are not. And I don't know. To me, there's a lot. I'm like, it's like Tampa 2 defense out here.
I want Superman to do well. I'm not rooting against it at all. I hope that the DC stuff does well going forward, whether it's on Max or HBO or it's big screen or animate, whatever. I feel like they're 15 plus years and billions of dollars too late to the game. And I'm kind of like, I agree with what Chris Nolan, when they asked him in 2013, make DC films. But don't worry about the connected universe stuff. Make the best DC films you can, and the rest will take care of themselves. And I grew up, and I'm not a big shared universe guy. I grew up reading Batman, and DC historically was, you could read Batman Detective, and that was each character was their own thing and their own issues. Then you would have the Justice League stuff that was kind of separate. Like Michael Uslan brought up the fact that, like, Superman went to Atlantis in a Superman story, and there was no Aquaman, but in Justice League there was Aquaman. It was just two different things. But
yeah,
look,
I mean,
you're just
talking to two guys who the comics weren't published that way for us growing up, though. Me and Justin, like, we're kind of the Crisis on Infinite Earths generation.
Well, it's a generational thing for sure. And just like
Batman 89 was when I got comics. Like Batman 89 was the first time I read Batman comics, right? And it was like Jim Aparo Batman, first thing I ever read. And then I remember going to the comic store, and Ironically, here's how I ran into Guy Gardner. There was a trade paperback called Justice League New Beginning, and I saw Batman. I'm like, I'm buying that because Batman's in it. Batman was like my
Your gateway drug.
my anchor point.
There you go.
He was my guy, right? And so I was like, well, what's this? I'm gonna read anything with Batman. I had no filters. Like right now, I got filters. I'm like, I'm not gonna buy that. I don't like that writer. I don't like that artist.
Right.
Back then, I was like, here's my $12. I'm gonna buy this.
Yeah.
And so I bought this trade paperback. I knew what the Justice League was. I had no idea who these characters were. It was John Jones, who I knew Martian Manhunter, and Batman. Other than that, I was like, who the crap are all these other guys? Right? Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, Guy Gardner. That's how I got introduced to those characters. And I was like, I love that book. That's like still one of my favorite. I love the JLI. That whole era of comics was like,
Yeah,
it
definitely.
was before my time, but I went back and I fell in love with it. But Batman was how I got into that. And Batman was who he was. They didn't make him a goofball. He was the character of Batman, how you know him, existed in that book.
And Batman's in that book to get you to buy that book because he's not in the series very long.
He's not. He fades into a background kind of character,
and then he just leaves. Yeah.
Yeah, then he leaves. He comes back, but yeah, the Denny O'Neil said, hey, you guys can use Batman as you guys reboot this team. Batman was in Wonder Woman, Superman were off the table because of their editors. So they still had like, hey, you can't use these characters. Like they might be able to pop up. Superman pops up one time, but he was my way into the DC universe. And I think that's, as a kid, superpowers was kind of like my way into the DC universe, but I didn't understand. Like Spider-Man and Superman could have been in the same house for all I knew. I didn't know. But once I got into the comics, I was like, I fell in love with the idea of like, okay, these characters, they work together at points, right? And it made sense. But like you said, majority of my Batman comics that I got, it's Batman by himself. Maybe Robin's in there, right? Like there wasn't a whole bunch of crossover stuff. Was Death and Family? I think Death in the Family was the first time I read a comic where like, oh, Superman showed up with Batman. That's cool. Like, what was that all about, right? Yeah, I love when characters have their own independent stories, but I do like when they team up for when it makes sense, when it should, because then there is an excitement to it, and I think that's one of the things that we missed with Batman versus Superman. That should have been like a pop culture.
But we had
phenomenon.
it until we saw it.
But that should have been like a celebration of genres of like, oh my gosh, dude, Batman together, like that was always like a thing
with
like,
Wonder Woman. Yeah,
like even before BVS and it was always like, oh, it'd be cool if Batman and Superman were in a movie together, right? Like it was always like I remember that movie, The Paper came out, it was like Batman and Superman are in a movie together, and like that was it. That was the closest we got. It was that movie, The Paper. Like, but I just feel like they botched it so hard, and we'll never get back to that again. Like we don't have that moment again ever.
We're never going to get that feeling of we just saw Batman and Superman on the big screen for the first time. Yeah.
That's gone. They ruined it. They didn't land it well, and that's a shame. But all that being said, I think there's a magic when the characters can come together. But I think there's a magic when they have their own story. The story just has to be the good story, and it always comes down to that. And the audience has to have trust and buy-in. And Marvel saw a lot of
brand loyalty.
It's a Marvel movie. Remember these
brand loyalty.
I'm gonna take my kids to see a Disney movie. I'm gonna take them to see a Marvel movie. No one's saying I'm gonna take.
That's kind of why I get a little nervous. Like when Bill, we've heard Bill say this before. DC's a dead brand. That's very nerve wracking as a DC fan. Outside of Batman, it's kind of like, all right, well, if the world's really rejecting this, there's only so many times they're going to give this a shot before they actually stop.
Yeah. Oh, this is it.
And you can't
Batman
put it on Batman's shoulders anymore either, because I think the more you reboot Batman and reboot Spider-Man, I think it's just cheap. They just get diluted after a while too. Like
I agree with you.
That's what
I agree with you.
I'm like, man, I don't want those characters to be like kind of like, I've seen Spider-Man 4 different times now, right? Like
but that's why I cherish the Batman so much, because I felt like it was kind of like a return to form. Post Flash, I'm getting a little nervous. Like maybe Batman doesn't have the same effect. I mean, Keaton wasn't a draw on that. What's going on? Like two Justice Leagues and BVS and all this jazz.
Yeah, but I think the Flash issue, there was a lot of stuff
with Batman.
Yeah, and here's the thing: if Michael Keaton was able to go on the talk shows, I think there would have been a little more butts in seats. But they couldn't do any of that. They couldn't do any of the late night shows because of the strike. You had no promo.
The Flash, I mean, it was people of my vintage that were hyped to see Michael Keaton. There's like Jake and Micah. Micah's 27, and he
Got no
couldn't care
attachment.
less. Couldn't care less about Michael Keaton being in that movie.
And again,
Wow.
that's why all those
And
cameos
he's a Batman
Deadpool,
fan.
Wolverine work, because
Yeah.
He's a
everyone's
Batman fan.
seen them.
So,
the fan,
yeah.
My kids
I
were
do-
excited to see him. And my kids are Keaton. That's just how I raised them. I was like, hey, Michael Keaton's Batman. It's so
Well, I mean, if you
Oliver
lived in
and Asher were
Chicago,
like,
they never would have watched it. So
oh, it didn't come out there.
I heard it never showed in Chicago.
It's
Crazy story.
it's going to be interesting to see what
Yeah.
happens. I'm kind of the different point of view when it comes to the reboot. I think that with Batman, it works. I think it works. It has. I mean, it's been proven it's worked, but it's been rebooted, and Batman can do well. Solo Batman. Same thing with Spider-Man. I think those two will survive. You get to a point where you just, if you keep on keeping on, you just run that into the ground. And I like fresh takes on. And Batman's a character you can have different takes on. The
Yeah,
character.
I think you can take.
Yeah.
I think that. I think that's a whole other it can be a whole other conversation. I would love to see Batman. Just make Batman films. I like James Bond in the sense, because there are sometimes you're like, oh, I would love to be able to get to that story, but we'll never get there because if you're only doing three story chunks, we may
And
not
James
get
Bond
to-
is kind of, I used to be like, it should be like James Bond, because James Bond just kind of kept going and going. It was really,
yeah.
reboot, they change actors and stuff. But
Yeah.
James Bond is now taking a page from Batman, where, Casino
flipped.
Royale was, is now, they had that little, was it 5 films with Daniel Craig
Yeah.
as Bond, and then that story, and now you're going to have a new James Bond with a new continuity, a new story. So that doesn't bother me. I don't mind that. So, because I know that at one point, sooner rather than later, the Batman saga will come to an end, and we'll see what happens. And we'll see
I
if
just
they
think
do.
there's some characters that are just bigger than, let's say, entertainment, like Batman, Spider-Man, James Bond. I think those guys aren't going away, but I don't know if Blue Beetle is going to get a trilogy, right? It's like
Yeah.
certain characters are just small timers, and that sucks for that character. But I don't know what to tell you. You just are.
Yeah. You just never know with films.
But
dude.
then again, Thor got how many movies? I didn't see that one coming.
he's got
either.
a fifth one. They're gonna do a
Is
fifth
there another one coming?
Yeah. So it's so I'm like, again, Thor and Man of Steel came out with the same year. Thor's got 5 more movies.
Yeah.
Was the first Thor in 2013?
Was it somewhere around there?
No, it was 2011. I believe.
2011. Okay, it was before.
Okay.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, before.
Yeah, imagine if Marvel said, "Okay, we're done. Thor's done after Dark World."
Yeah.
I don't know. Imagine if they said it after. Was it Love and Peace? They
Love
could have
and
canceled
Thunder.
Thor twice. And they
Yeah,
haven't.
They should have after Love and Thunder, but
Really, Love and
they
Thunder.
hit Ragnarok and people love that movie.
Yeah, I think it's trash. I actually like Love and Thunder way more than Ragnarok. I think it's a way better movie.
Yeah.
But no one agrees with me.
Yeah.
But
you're wrong.
it's just funny.
I didn't
they
mind Ragnarok. It was all right.
They made
All
the
right,
Hulk
we're
too
gonna-
stupid, in my opinion.
The Hulk. Well, the last time
I
I
didn't
saw
like what
him,
they
he
did with
was.
Hulk.
Well, then he. Oh God! See how far away I'm back. He's like Bruce Banner the whole time. Right now, he's like Hulk.
That
Bruce
wasn't
Banner.
one of the Avenger movies. He had a little Chuck Knobloch syndrome. He couldn't change.
Okay. All right.
Was he had superhero form of ED? He just couldn't perform.
All right. All right, boys.
All right,
We'll
all
see what
right.
happens here. It is a generational thing. That'd be a whole other topic. That's like with Cape Crusader. I never. I think there was a lot of comparison to beat Batman the Animated Series.
Unfairly, I
just-
think.
I don't. My Batman. I was 27 when that BTAS came out. My Batman sensibilities were fully cemented and
Have you? You should do a
and-
binge of BTAS if you haven't. Just
Oh, I've seen them
watch-
all. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna
It's
say.
just it's just that it didn't move my Batman fan needle as much. And it's a it's a top 5. I think I have it in the top 5 with the Batman things. Definitely,
89 and BTAS kind of molded me.
I get its historical significance, but as for me, it didn't have a big impact on me because I was already I mean, I was 27 and I was already had my Batman sensibilities. I get it. If you were younger, I get it. I get it.
I said BTAS and the Nolan trilogy is probably as close as I want to say is as close as like definitive Batman, I think, as we've ever really gotten. You know? If
I mean,
had
I
to
don't know.
compare,
That's just interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I consumed BTAS just because it was out. Like I don't know. I don't know if I'm like.
How old were you when it came out, Justin?
I don't know, I was probably 11.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I was right.
I watched
it.
Man.
Yeah, I watched it. I liked it. But I still remember like that was dumb. Like there was.
They're definitely dumbed down episodes. But like
Batman's in my basement and stuff like that.
Majority of them are just insane. Yeah, especially that first season.
It was really. I don't know if it was like it developed what my sensibilities are when it comes to Batman. I think the comics did that for me. Like Batman 89 grabbed me. Like that just changed my world, right? I grew up on a little bit of the West stuff. You'd see the reruns, but I think the comics are really what shaped me. Because when I think of my favorite Batman stories, I go to like, oh man, like nothing beats like Year One for me, man. Like that synthesizes what I think Batman is,
Yeah. As a child, just that young when BTAS came out and not having money, it was BTAS that really formed my Batman sensibilities. Just because it was the content I was able to consume.
Yeah, I mean, it builds the world out really, really
Yeah.
good for you. Kind of gives you an understanding of who all the characters are. They did a great job. I'm just thinking, like for myself, I'm like, that's man, you just stumped me. I'm like, does that inform my takes? I don't know. I don't know if it does.
It's
Like-
It's definitely
Like
why I
a s-
love sidekicks.
the 60s show was that to me. That's probably the most impactful Batman thing because it made me a Batman fan. But then I went to comics right after that, and then it was I always bring up Batman 251, Joker's 5-Way Revenge, my favorite single Batman story. I mean, that's what
Neil
I
Adams,
read
God bless him.
was Batman and Detective, when Batman and Gotham, solo Batman doing Batman things. They had done ship Robin's ass off to college a couple years earlier, and
He's still not dead.
and
Not dead, just like college.
and so that's what
protecting the fraternities.
it was that stuff. So anyway, that's a whole different show. Where our Batman fandom came from. All right, so anything y'all want to mention?
That sounds like a good social
before we
hour, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that would be
Get out of
that would be
here.
a good one.
Yeah, that would. All right,
do it.
Pete, go. You got the whole.
I think we've reached the hour and a half. Bill's getting antsy. At Pete Illustrated Twitter, with Holzman at straight_O_G fanboy news there. Spider-Man Coalition. Check that out. Justin's on an episode recently. Brian Lauer's The Batman Book Club. Make sure you check that out. Brian Lauer, that is. And BatmanOnFilm.com. Stay tuned to Batman on Film YouTube for local pizza dining reviews.
We do support local dining here at Batman on Film.
That's right. That's right. You can find me on X, Justin M. Kowalski. There I am. I'll be there, and I'll be on whatever show that I get on. And there we go.
It's not scene by scene, right? Or chapter by chapter. We're done with that?
Oh yes, I gotta yes, chapter by chapter. Coming
Yeah,
soon. Coming soon.
the year's running out on us.
I know.
Justin's been digging a pool.
Batman-film.com. That's where you can find me. And you can find everybody else. All of us over there. Check all that stuff out. Our announcer Rachel will finish up here. Support local dining, and we'll catch you next time.
You have been listening to the BOF Social Hour, Jett's official podcast on Batman on Film. Follow BOF on Threads at The Batman on Film. Follow BOF on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Batman on Film. To help keep BOF up and running, go to patreon.com/BatmanOnFilm, or you can buy BOF a beer at buymeacoffee.com/TheRealBatmanOnFilm. For Jett and everyone at BOF, I'm announcer Rachel. Authoritative, definitive, the original, Batman on Film, founded in 1998.